Good afternoon, everybody. Many of you know me, but for those of you that don't, my name is Echo. I work in the second shift trouble department of shipping. But I have another purpose on this earth. I was put here to heal hearts and transform minds. I was asked to speak to you here today by Nancy Coenda, and I would like to start by telling you a little story. The very first job that I ever had was working at a record store. A record store that was very famous in the 80s and 90s, but has since been closed down. The entire chain closed down about 10 years ago. Some of you may or may not remember it. The name of the place was The Warehouse. W-H-E-R-E, House. Their slogan was, "Where? The Warehouse." I started there August 17th, 1997. Exactly a week before my 18th birthday. And in order to get hired there, I had to really kind of harass the management. I had turned in my application, and then I gave them a week, and when they didn't get back to me, I started calling and calling and calling, and I called them so often that I am convinced that they eventually just gave me the interview just to get me to stop calling. But the thing was that once I got in the door for the interview, they liked what they saw. Because for those of you who have had a conversation with me, you know that once I get started talking about something, I am a walking almanac of useless information. And for those of you that don't know or haven't had a conversation with me, I don't know about things that guys are supposed to know about, like cars and sports, but I do know an awful lot, an unnecessary amount of useless information about music, movies, and television. So working at a record store was the perfect job for me. And once they saw that, they knew that I was the man for them, and they gave me the job. But I took that initiative, and I chased that job, and I got it. So obviously, I am no stranger to the concept of taking the initiative. And now when I first got the job, my mother said one of the wisest things that I have ever heard her say, possibly the only wise thing I've ever heard her say, but don't tell her that. She said, and by the way, this is something that I tell people to this day. She said, find the job that nobody else wants to do and do it better than everybody else. I'm going to repeat that. She said, find the job that nobody else wants to do and do it better than everybody else. Because that is going to make them see you as a non-expendable employee. And I thought to myself, non-expendable, huh? I like the sound of that. All right. So I looked for every opportunity to put forth that extra effort and to find the job that nobody else wanted to do. What's that, boss? You need me to climb up on this ladder and clean the ceiling fans? Not a problem. You got it. What's that, boss? You need me to stay an extra couple of hours? You got it. What? You want me to work a double shift even though I just worked a double shift yesterday because somebody else called in sick or doesn't want to come in? Not a problem. You got it. Well, it turns out that the thing that I did best that nobody else wanted to do, and I did it better than everybody else, was cleaning the bathroom. Thanks, Mom. The idea was that it was supposed to be on a rotating schedule every week. So every week, or every couple of days, whatever it was, somebody different was supposed to clean the bathroom. Well, after a while, I started noticing that it was always just me being asked to clean the bathroom. And I asked my manager why. I said, why am I being the only one that's asked to clean the bathroom? What happened to the rotating schedule? And he said, you do it so much better than everybody else that when everybody else does it, it just looks like nobody did it. I would rather have you do it. He said, I am announcing that you are now the king of cleaning the bathroom. And he gave me a fuzzy little scepter as, as a symbol of my bathroom cleaning royalty. Once again, thanks, Mom. And that's all right. You know what? I did it with a smile, and I did my best at it because that's part of what made them like me, and that's part of what made them keep me. That's what made me a non-expendable employee. I worked hard at that job. Like I said, extra hours, double shifts, overtime whenever I could take it. I learned everything I could learn about how to run the cash register, how to run Ticketmaster, because we had Ticketmaster then. I was constantly trying to learn anything new that I could, and you'd think that at a record store there's not that much extra stuff that you could learn, but there really is if you're looking for it, if you're taking that initiative. Now, as I mentioned, I'm kind of a walking almanac of useless information, and this is where that came in handy, is because somebody could walk into the record store and they could say, "Excuse me, I'm looking for this song. It's by this girl. She might be white, but she might be black. I can't tell. She's singing about love." And I'd be like, "Oh, it's this." And they'd go, "Yes, that's it." And I'd say, "Okay, let me show you where you can find it." I was perfect at that. And everybody knew it. I had people that would come from other cities to ask me stuff. People who I had helped before who didn't live in that neighborhood would come back to the store just to ask me for help. But then, about a year after I got hired, they promoted this woman named Amanda. She was about my age, maybe a couple years older than me. She had been there for 6 months, half the time I had been there. She worked half as many hours as I did during a business week. And I felt like she did about half as much work as I did when I was there. So, needless to say, when they promoted her, I was furious. I was livid. Like, I'm sure that people could see the steam shooting out of my ears like a freaking Looney Tune cartoon. But at the same time, looking back now, I know that I was young and, I kind of felt like the world owed me something even though really it didn't, and I just had expected that because I worked so hard and was such a valuable employee that if there was a promotion, I would get it. I was told when I got hired that there was 4 chances for advancement in a year and that I would be notified of all of them. Well, I was not notified of any of them, but at the same time, I also wasn't asking about any of them either. So as I said, I was really upset. I was basically just pissed and furious about the fact that they were promoting this girl who had been there half as long as me and did half as much work as me and was there half as often. And unfortunately, I let it affect my behavior that day. I let it affect the way that I was working. I was being short with people. I was slamming my cash register. I was not my usual jolly and jovial self. I wasn't laughing with people and I wasn't going out of my way to help customers. I basically had had enough for the day and kind of just wanted to go home. Well, so the next day, my manager Dave came up to me and he said, "Hey, are you okay? You seemed really upset yesterday. You want to talk about anything?" And I said, "Yeah, Dave, you know what? Let's talk." And I slammed my cash register shut. And I said, I'm furious that you're making Amanda a manager and not me." And he said, "Okay, I kind of figured that's what it was. But look, she came to me 2 months ago and she asked me, she said, 'What do I have to do to be seen as management material the next time that there's a promotion coming up?' I gave her a list of things she needed to do, and she did it. She met all the requirements. So now that there's a promotion coming up, we're giving it to her. I have never heard you say anything about wanting to be a manager or get a promotion. Would you want to be a manager?" And at that moment, I hadn't really thought about it. I was too busy being pissed that I got passed up for somebody else. I hadn't really thought about the fact that I didn't want the promotion. I mean, yeah, a little more money would have been nice, but I didn't actually want the promotion. I was just upset because I felt like I wasn't being recognized for my hard work. And so in that moment, when he asked me that question, it was like he flipped a switch. I was no longer angry. And I said, "No, Dave, you know what? You're right. I don't want the position, man. And I'm sorry for behaving the way I did yesterday. It won't happen again. Let's just finish counting our registers and start the day and go have a good day together." And he said, "That sounds like a plan." And so we did. We counted our registers, we opened the store, and we had a good day together. And I learned something that day. I learned that not only had I not taken the proper initiative, but that Amanda did, and that's why she was getting that promotion. And not only that, but about a year after that, she actually ended up getting promoted to be a store manager at another store. And it worked out. She did a good job. Okay, so after that conversation with Dave, I continued on just being a regular associate, making minimum wage, working 40 hours a week. And about 9 months later, Dave came over and he said, "Hey man, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I said, "A minute? For you, Dave, I got 5." And we both kind of chuckled about that. And then he said, "Okay, look, in 2 weeks, we're going to be promoting Brooke to assistant manager. Are you going to be okay with that, or are you going to throw another fit?" And I kind of chuckled a little bit because I had that one coming. I had behaved pretty poorly the first time around. And I said, "No, man, I'm not worried about it. You go." And then I stopped and I said, "Wait a minute. Did she actually ask you what she needed to do and put forth the same initiative as Amanda did, or is this just because she's smoking hot?" And he said, No. She came a couple months ago and she asked what she needs to do, and not only that, but she actually did a better job of meeting the requirements than Amanda did." And I said, I don't know, that sounds kind of fishy. Brooke doesn't work very hard. But, all right, that's fine. Dave, you're the boss, whatever you want to do, man. I trust you. Go ahead. You have my blessings. I'm not going to be angry. But thank you for asking, and I'm so sorry that I had put us in a position where you felt like you needed to ask me if I was going to be okay with this. I promise that won't happen again. And he said, "All right." And we both went back to work. And again, this was an example of me not taking the initiative, and I was reminded of that at that point. But again, at that point, I was 19. I was living the party life. I was not interested in all the responsibilities of being a member of the management team. And it wasn't really worth the extra 50 cents an hour that I was going to be making to have to put in all that extra effort. But then, a couple months later, after Brooke got promoted, Dave came up to me and he said, "Hey, I wanted you to know there's going to be a product manager opening at the Torrance store down the street, and I think you would be perfect for it. Would you be interested in this job?" And I slid over and I said, "Tell me more." And so he did. He gave me the rundown on what the job was going to be, and he gave me the rundown on what was going to be required in order for me to be applicable for that job. So I met those requirements. I took the initiative, I met those requirements, and I got the job. Not only did I get the job, but his little push in that direction, his belief in me and his positive reinforcement in me got me going down the road of management. I was a product manager for 2 years, and then from there I became an assistant manager for a year, and then from there I was second assistant manager in charge for 2 years, meaning that when the store manager was away, I was in charge. I was counting the safe, I was taking bank deposits, I was opening and closing the store, had my own keys, had my own alarm code, ran the paperwork, made the schedule, did the payroll at the end of the night, did the payroll at the end of the week, doing all the things that managers do and making pretty decent money at the same time. I don't mean to say that I was living high on the hog, but I was certainly making more than minimum wage. So, as a product manager, my job was pretty simple. All I had to do basically was receive the shipments that came in and prepare the merchandise to go on the floor. I never had to run a cash register. There was a 5 CD changer in the back room where I worked, and I had all the CDs that I could possibly want to listen to all day long. So it was a great and perfect job for me, and I loved it, and I did it with gusto. But I never would have done all of that. I wouldn't have discovered those things. I wouldn't have had those experiences if it hadn't been for that little shove in that direction that Dave gave me. If it hadn't been for him believing in me and showing me that not only did I have the potential to do it, but that he saw it. And so then I took some initiative and I made something happen. And it was for the better. And it had a long-term effect. So at this point in time, I think I've rambled on about my 8 years at the record store long enough. I'm sure you're all wondering where the hell I'm going with this. My point in telling you all of this is that I think we have a lot of hardworking people here with a lot of potential who just need to know that somebody believes in them. All of us have worked with somebody who shows up and has that attitude that, oh, I'm not going to do that. I don't get paid enough to do that. Or that's not in my job description. I'm not going to do that. Or even just, well, they didn't ask me to do that, so I'm not going to do it. We've all worked with somebody like that. Some of us still work with people like that. And we all know how much it sucks. So my goal in talking to you guys today is to try to get you to take some initiative of your own and try to figure out ways to get these employees to stop thinking that way. I know it's an uphill challenge to get them to understand that work doesn't have to be something that you hate. You know, a lot of the people who work here, especially the temps, are younger cats. And for a lot of them, this is their first job. They haven't had any other jobs. They haven't been around the block very many times. And so they don't understand that this job is not as hard as they think it is. And so a lot of them work just hard enough to keep from getting fired at a job that, in their opinion, pays them just enough to keep them from quitting. We know that's not true, but to them it is. And it's easy to get them to not see it that way. We just have to put a little bit of effort in. We have to use a little bit of positive reinforcement and show them that we believe in them. We can get them to understand that they have mass potential. I think a lot of these people don't know that they could be great. And if we can tell them that and show them that, we encourage them to take initiative on their own, and then they get that good feeling that comes from getting something accomplished, they will go farther. I have come to find that most of us enjoy our job when we're not thinking about whether or not we enjoy our jobs. How many of you know this to be true? Think about it. We have been taught from the time that we are little by television and by our friends and by our parents who were taught by their parents that work is this horrible, hellish place that you hate and that you have to go there, and that when you get home you should feel tired and exhausted and want to be left alone. But the fact of the matter is that that's not necessarily true. And most of us subconsciously know that it's not true, but consciously we don't see that. We enjoy our jobs when we're not thinking about whether or not we enjoy our jobs. The problem is that most of us are not encouraged to take initiative. Nobody is encouraging us, and so we don't see to do it on our own. We don't see that we can. We don't see the possibilities where we could, and we don't see the reward that might be there if we do. So we as leaders have to figure out ways to encourage our team members, both the temps and the full-time ones, to take the initiative here and there, to do things without being asked, to not wait until the lead asks them to do it or the supervisor asks them to do it, to just do it on their own if it needs to be done. Let me see by a show of hands, how many of you love when you go to ask one of your team members to do something and they are already doing it or have already done it? That's pretty amazing, right? Now, how many of you have people in your department that you can count on to operate that way? Yeah, see, everybody look around and see how few an amount of hands are raised to that question. Do you see the point now that I'm trying to make? Okay, I'm going to leave you guys with this. Henry David Thoreau said, "If you can make a man feel inferior, you do not have to tell him to go through the back door. He will go on his own." And the flip side of that is that if you can make a person feel useful, if you can make a person feel capable, if you can make a person feel productive, that they will seek out more opportunities to get that feeling again on their own without being told. And sometimes when your belief in yourself is not enough, sometimes you need to know that somebody else believes in you. So really, we as leaders need to take a little bit of initiative of our own in order to get our non-leaders to take the initiative on their own and start doing what they know they can do, not just what they know they need to do. Thank you very much.